Hi, Jill. Can you hear me? We cannot hear you.
Oh, somehow can you hear me now?
Hi, Gio. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, clearly.
Oh, okay. So I'm not sure what I did wrong, but uh, so let me share the screen and put up this thing here. And I guess we'll give it a few minutes for people to join anyway. Um, we have plenty of time.
Yeah, sure. You can wait for a few minutes so that we can invite more people to join your.
Sure, sure. No rush.
Yeah, we have actually announced it in our Discord channel, as
Hmm.
well as we already have announced it in our Facebook page as well to join your talk.
Yeah, it's okay. The title you have picked, it seems very outrageous. So either will trigger people interest or just say, oh, forget it. Let's not listen to this lunatic here.
It's okay, they are all waiting for you. Alright, you can start whenever you feel right, and we will be here to moderate your webinar. Okay?
Okay, okay. Let's wait one more minute. Maybe let's give see if somebody else wants to join.
That's fine.
And I guess I see like 13 people. That's including 14. Yeah. Um, so that means it's a mixed 14, including me, right?
Yes, yes, it's 14 including you.
Okay. Okay. Let's just give it another minute for people to join.
Yeah, we have another one.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe a quick show of hand to the attendees that are attending this hackathon virtual competition this year. Um, are all of you in the age of 30 and below?
Oh, you want?
Just out of curiosity, maybe a show of hand. How many of you is more than 30 years old? Just out of curiosity.
Anyone raise your hand?
If you are younger than 30 or younger than me.
I'm raising my hand. I'm younger than you.
Okay, okay. I cannot see the chat anymore. I'm not sure what I did.
Oh,
Okay, so
okay, it's okay. I will moderate the chat for you for the
oh,
Q&A session.
okay. So let's get started to share what I have to say to those that have joined. And I'm gonna talk to you for about 15, 20 minutes more or less, and then I'll open the floor for any question you may have. And what I thought when I talk to you about take action, which is the theme for this year. But before I do this, a very quick introduction about myself. My name is Giorgio Catucci. I have an Italian name, but I was born in Luxembourg and I'm American citizen, living and working in Malaysia for 14 years. But everybody calls me Gorgeous, as you can see in the beautiful picture. Now, the picture is back from 1998 when I was tasked in the Halloween evening to get dressed as a Linda Tripp. Those of you that are old enough, if any, may remember Linda Tripp recording the conversation, confession of Monica Lewinsky about her sexual encounter with the former president, Bill Clinton. And the reason I use this picture is also to a little bit describe myself. Not that I'm a beautiful woman, but that I tend to do a little bit of bold things and think out of the box. And I would like to use this as an opportunity to encourage you to do the same, because this is a hackathon, a diathon. So it's a chance to really think things out of the box and go really out there and come up with something different. Now, my professional life started about when I was 14, 15 years old, and I spent 10 years in the hotel and restaurant business. I've done everything from a restaurant manager to housekeeping supervisor, cleaning rooms, being a cook, being a waiter, a busboy, and also a bartender. And I also worked for 4 years on a cruise line. That was the very first ship I worked on it. Eventually it sunk. It's now sunk in the ocean somewhere in India, I think. And But there is one thing I learned very important in that industry, and is the importance of customer and user experience. And that's because when you are a waiter on the ship, that's why is the little picture there of me dancing, is I have no control of the food that is cooked in the restaurant, and I have no control over the menu because it's already preset, but I have to entertain my customers for 2 hours before I set for the next round, so they will leave me a tip at the end of the day. And again, the parallel is here. While you think about your hackathon or ideathon solution, think also about as complex as it could be in the back end, how easy and is the experience for the people that are going to use it or they're going to face to it. After my hotel and restaurant business career, then eventually I moved to an office job, and for 22 years, and I'm still working for DHL. Some of you may be familiar with the courier division, but there is also the freight, the logistic, the warehousing, the postal service, and other functions. I started in the States as a billing clerk, and then I moved to finance operations. And then from there, I moved to projects implementing financial system throughout Latin America. And that's what brought me 14 years ago to DHL IT services in Cyberjaya, because I was driving the developers crazy with my requirements. So they said, why don't you just sit next to the coders and tell them what you want? And that was as far as I got exposure to coding. I learned SQL for Dummies 101. Eventually, I got tired with software implementation. And for the last 10 years, I've been working mostly in the field of continuous improvement. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm the head of continuous improvement for DHL IT services globally. So I have experience and expertise in Lean, Six Sigma, change management, design thinking, and agile. But then when you look at this, you probably wonder, what else do I do? And 2 years ago, I started to do what I do. Pay me for what I know and my experience, not only in those areas that I do at DHL, but also because I had my own startup business when I was younger. Truth to be told, most of them failed, and I learned big lessons. But I do it as a socialpreneur. So every time I charge a fee for training or consulting or mentoring to corporates, I use the money to do microloan with no interest to a marginalized community, so they get a chance to start their little business and get on. So with this brief introduction about myself and what I have to offer, what I have on the plate, then all of you may be wondering, what the heck am I doing at the NASA Space App Challenge? And that's me in the picture. You may have seen this picture on some of the commercial material used over the years. And even more interesting, I've been joining as a mentor this program for the last 4 years. And the way I ended up here is a pure coincidence, an accident, like many things that happen in my life. I actually didn't even want to work for DHL when I got the job offer. I was looking for a job in a bank, and instead I ended up working at DHL. So the way I ended up here, it was about 4 years ago, pure coincidence. But to tell you how I ended up here, I need to take you back about 10 years and tell you what happened to me then and over my 10 years, which has a relation to my point today about what do we mean by taking action. So about 10 years ago, I reached a tipping point in my life where I felt like, okay, the job is a job, it pays well, I got everything I need. I just wasn't enjoying it anymore as much as I used to, and I needed to find something new to do. Now, when you hit my age, we call it midlife crisis. And as you can see, I even explore about having hair again. And one of the things that I decided to do was to start scuba diving. I wanted to become a dive instructor, but somewhere down the way, I discovered underwater photography and the beauty that is under the ocean, or whatever is left under the ocean these days. But there was also a tipping point in my life, because when I realized what was happening in the ocean, it made me reflect about my action outside of the ocean. And what I realized is that for the first 30 to 40 years of my life, I've seen the birth and the death of so many technological invention, the long planes, the floppy disk, the 5 1/4 inch disk, if any of you have ever seen it, the CD, the DVD, the cassette. But then they all came and went. And then I asked myself, but where did they all go? Except for the records that I still keep my collection of 250 albums at home, they all went into the garbage. And this is where I want to apologize to all of you, young generation, because I am one little contributor of being unconsciously irresponsible of my action for the last 40 years and causing the mess that we are in today. And of course, we realized that the consequences of my action had an impact on the environment, but that's not all of it. It also has an impact to our lives first, because chances are that the plastic or the battery that I throw in a dustbin for 30 years in a row, you probably breeding it today, if it end up in incinerator, or you probably are drinking it today if it ended up in a landfill and then into the river, or it could even be that you are eating it today if it ended up in the ocean and it's now embedded in your sushi and sashimi when you go to a Japanese restaurant. So with that guilty feeling in mind, of course, I realized that it's time to react to my lack of corrective action over the years. And of course, I started recycling, and it felt good. I started recycling. Then when I saw how much I was recycling, I tried to reduce my recycling. And then eventually I tried to eliminate my addiction to plastic. I'm still in work in progress. I'm down to one bag of recycling plastic per month. That size bag, it used to be almost one every 3 or 4 days. But I also realized there was time for me to pay back to society and try to do something good. And I joined a group of doctors, and we would go to old folks home where there are old folks abandoned to their families, from their families, and left there this place to their disease. And while I was feeling good that I was trying to attend this person with this big wound on his legs due to diabetes, I also realized something else. Most of the time, these people had a look in their face as they were telling me, what are you doing? Just let me go. And then I was wondering, am I really making an impact, or am I actually making it worse for this guy that he just wants to call it off the day and get going with it, and I'm just dragging it even longer. I even wonder, am I better off just staying home and read the newspaper? So mindful that in the past I've taken action that sometimes don't make a positive impact. Now I was also trying to understand, is my action now making a positive impact, or am I better off not doing anything? And so with that, I decided instead to join the disaster response team at DHL. We provide free logistic and warehousing management in the case of a national disaster. And there you see me driving a forklift. I think this was in Philippines. And it was the first time in my life that I felt good about myself, because I thought I was really making an impact to the survivor of a national disaster, let it be a earthquake in Nepal, or a volcano eruption in Indonesia, or um, what was it that happened, a hurricane or a typhoon in the Philippines. Fortunately, we don't have national disasters every day, although they are happening with a little more frequency, courtesy of our actions over the last 30, 40 years. But I wanted to find something else that I can do every day than to help people to be more successful and more sustainable. So I decided, why not go help a marginalized urban youth? And when I did this, of course, I thought about Chowkit. For those of you that are Malaysian, you would be familiar with it. And like everybody else, I usually had already made up my mind. I had my black and white picture of Chowkit. But it's also when I realized that if I want to solve a problem, I need to listen to the problem first. And listening to these kids and understanding and appreciating their dreams, which are no different from everyone else, then it enabled me to find a better way to make a difference. And their dream was to use performing arts to paint a different picture about Chow kids. Now, I know nothing about performing arts, but I was able to help them to do this in a sustainable way, financially and also towards the environment, because they used 100% upcycled material. Again, this is, guess my point is that I may not be an IT expert, but I can find a way to help you in succeeding with your idea that you're working on it for the next 2 days in this competition. But that lasted about 6 years. And then I realized, okay, I helped 6 kids. Can I do something more than this? And I started volunteering with an organization called Marapan to mentor and coach high school students every year when they do their high school competition. And it's usually a project that try to address an issue in a community, let it be a social issue or an environmental issue. Of course, from there, I said, can I do this even with adults? And of course, I also start consulting social entrepreneurs. I think I counted about 18 to 20 that I've consulted and mentored over the last 20 years. And some of them have become quite successful. And while I don't take any credits for their achievement, I take satisfaction in the fact that probably they listened to a few things that I had to tell them, and they managed to stay in business. But this is also when 4 years ago, I was volunteering at an event in Magic where they knew me as a mentor, and someone at Magic gave my name to the folks at Unlock Design that was organizing the Space Challenge. And so they dropped me an invite and they asked me, do you want to join as a mentor? And my first question is, how the hell did you get my name and how do you see me fitting into these things? But because working with especially high school students, I always get a kick out of it because they come up with these crazy, bold ideas. I say, yeah, what the hell, let me go there and have fun with it. And I really had fun. I had fun every single year, mentoring many of you and just giving my 2 cents of what I saw your solution would look like to the other side, independent from the technological solution. And it's a satisfaction to see a group like these kids that came up with a very simple idea about a t-shirt a couple of years ago. And when I challenged their solutions because I couldn't understand it, so then they went back to redesign it, and then you find out that they got the first prize in 2018. And this is why I'm here again this year to give you my 2 cents about your solution, more from an impact perspective and a user experience perspective. So when I talk about action, I'm asking you to take the right action. And I'm talking from my experience because I've not done that for 30 to 40 years, as you can see from what I shared you earlier, but also because it's something very important to remember here. And it is, in my lifetime, the world population doubled. And that means that when I graduated from university, I was competing with a little bit more than half of the people you are competing today. But yet, the planet hasn't doubled. It's still the same size, it's still the same number of animals, it's still the same, well, probably less number of trees and less number of animals. So we need to think about we need to rethink how we take action because we have to fit more than double the population when I was a kid in the same space. And to do this, I ask you to really do 3 things today during the hackathon. Number one, millennials are known for wanting to make an impact, which is very good. My generation, we didn't care about impact. We were just selfish and using everything we could get our hands on it. But when you do this, again, reflect for a second about the intended and unintended consequences of our action, because everything that we do, there is always some negative side of it that we have omitted for 40 years. We all enjoyed using plastic products and the comforts of it for 40 years, but we never thought about what to do with it when we're done using it. And with that in mind, I'm challenging technology to think in a different way. We have the tendency to think that technology is a solution, but if technology was the solution, that technology would have been for problems. But it's not always the case. We are the problem. Most of the problems are man-made, whether because our inaction, like I said, we don't know what to do with the plastic we used for 40 years, or also because of the other reason, the world population doubled, but the resources didn't double along with it. And that brings me to my third call of action, which is we need to start acting in a more sustainable way. So when you design your solution, please think it from a different angle for once. Think about it. How can this idea, how can I use technology to change the way we act, the way we behave, from preventing or stopping us to creating problems? Because creating a solution, for example, that can predict when the next hurricane comes, but we keep acting the way we act today, the hurricanes will just keep increasing, and that is still not going to solve the problem at the end. And this is the end of my outrageous sharing session and introduction to you. And with that, I leave the floor for Q&A or thoughts and reflection that you all have.
All right, everyone, you can drop your question over here. And then, oh, now, gorgeous, we have one question.
Okay, how do I read the question?
There's a chat function. Can you actually check it, or you want me to read the question for you?
Can you go ahead and read it while I figure out where to find it?
Okay, it's from Jim Cartoon. So what he
Okay.
asks is, can he track his parcel here? Because you're from DHL. He's wondering if he can track your parcel. I mean, his parcel. Sorry, just a
Um,
joke.
oh, okay, okay. Well,
Okay,
hey,
please.
uh, if you are Malaysian, then you would get this joke. DHL, do you know what it stands for?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it stands to Dua Hari Lambat. Yeah, just don't tell my CEO, otherwise I'm gonna get fired after 22 years.
Okay, sure. I will keep it secret. So we have a question from James, which is, oh, it's not a question. It's just he said, "Thank you for your great sharing." Okay, and then I'm looking for a question. Guys can put a lot of people is laughing at you for your joke.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah. Well, that's why I'm gorgeous, right?
yes, that is why.
Yeah. So
Okay.
make your solution gorgeous too.
Oh, we have a question from Emily.
Yeah, thank you for the inspiring talk. I would ask
Hmm.
you, what kept you going? As you mentioned, you lost the way at some point. What did you change in your lifestyle around to pick up yourself? Well, like I said, we all hit a moment in life. It's called midlife crisis. Man usually is between 37 to 40. Women, some people say they have a midlife crisis every morning when they wake up. Just joking. But really, what kept me going these days is this. I can fix only that much of what I've done wrong for 30 years. And I take my responsibility for it because I never questioned myself for what I was doing. And that's why all I'm doing now is reaching out to the youth, because honestly, old fart like me, we're not going to fix the problem. Half of us probably still don't get it that we have a problem, because we all worry about saving the planet. Forget about saving the planet. The planet will find a way to survive. We need to save ourselves. And all I'm trying to do here is to reach out to as many of you to start really go ahead, try to make an impact. Think it through when you do something, because there is always a negative consequence to it. Use technology in a different way. We have a tendency to think that technology is the solution. Technology is never a solution, is a mean to an end. And that's why I ask you to start acting sustainably when you do this. And I will never stop until the day I die to try to plant the seeds in as many of you, because guess what? I'm 50, I probably have another 20, 30 years to go and then I'm done. But some of you got a long way to go and you got to put up with the shit and the mess that I left behind. So, and that's a good motivation for me. Not to mention that I learn a lot, especially from young generations, because your thinking process is very different than my generation.
Okay, I see. All right, we have another question from
Yeah. Yeah.
Kenji Lu, where he asks, "What are the core principles, in your opinion, necessary to keep a startup going and growing?"
Keep it short and stupid, and then get started, and don't spend too much time prescribing and describing. because the most innovative ideas. So here is a challenge for you. Probably the last innovation was the Walkman in the 80s, from Japan. Everything else is just an adaptation to it. And sometimes the best innovation is adapting something for a different purpose, complete different purpose, and then I can make use of it, right? And it's the same thing how, for example, NASA, many people don't know that the bypass technology that we use today for heart surgery and keep people alive was a piece of technology that was designed to send people in space on a shuttle. And then they just readapted for a different purpose. So think about, when you think about solution, make them simple, don't make it complicated, because otherwise you will never get started. A beautiful idea is an idea that people can understand. And that's why I said, while the technology behind it can be complex, the use of it has to be simple and easy to understand and can be replicated or adapted to something else. So that's why I say keep it short and stupid, really stupid, so I can understand it. Um, and then get started and learn by doing, because I often find people that they sit in a room, prescribe and describe for days what they're going to do, and then you go out and reality will hit you in the face, right?
That's true. Reality will hit you in the face. It's painful, I know. Also, next one is we have one comment from Bob, which is amazing person you are, Mr. Gorgeous. All right, next one is from Tasha. So, what really inspired you to keep moving forward and make a change? How would
Mm.
you advise the young generation in this matter?
Yeah, I think I just answered this question a little bit earlier, but really it's for me was the tipping point, realizing that let's be honest, we are all selfish. It's a noble thing to say I want to save the world, but I'm one out of 7 billion people, so and then I need to have a selfish reason for doing something because that's the only way will get me going and wake up in the morning. So I have my personal selfish reason why I wake up earlier on a Saturday, 8 o'clock in the morning, get a cup of coffee, and go ahead and mentor one of your fellows early this morning. And I'll be very honest with you. For me, the tipping point was diving. When I realized what's going on underwater and the amount of degradation that I observed in the last 10 years of me scuba diving, it's really pissing me off, and I need to do something about it. And I can do something about it, but I can also try to convince as many people to do the same. When I have guests visiting me and they stay, I ask them to stay for a month because then they say I become contagious. And then when they go home, they start recycling or stop using plastic bags. And it's about changing our lifestyle and our habit. We can stop using certain things if you want to. It takes time, but we can. So I have a selfish reason because I want to go diving and I want to still see things as long as I'm alive. And then in order to do this, it's not enough just for me, but convince as many of you to rethink what you do. I go get coffee takeaway in a paper cup, but I always ask, don't put the plastic lid on it. And even if it's hot, even if I will spill it on my lap and I burn my lap, but it's one less plastic lid and I can live with it. I spilled it on my car a couple of times. I had to wash it, but it's fine. It's one less plastic lid that will end up in the ocean and I will end up eating it or drinking it or breathing it.
See, yeah, it's a good practice. We will respect on that. Also, we have another question from Yusri. It's quite long. I'm going to read it to you, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah, yeah,
technology.
yeah, I can
Yeah,
read it.
you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
read
As an
it.
example,
Okay.
technology could make deliver quick. We can have a long debate about this, but remember, there is some people make money out of it, right? But yeah, technology is supposed to make things simple, and the things get expensive because the experience we sell with it, they cost an arm and a leg. But let's not, we need to stop about everything cheap because, we want everything buy cheap at Shopee for 10 ringgit. Remember that someone made that thing for even less money than that. And this is why we still have poverty in some countries. So we need to, and I find it funny in some people, they say, oh, this is too expensive. And then they have no problem to spend 15 ringgit for a Starbucks coffee. So I think the thing, technology becomes expensive is because we made the product of it expensive and people are willing to pay for it. Just like we made education expensive and it's supposed to be a basic human rights for everyone, right? And you can get an education for free at the public library reading a book. So, but still, we go pay an arm and a leg to get a degree that another million people will have along with you.
I see. Okay.
Not sure I answered your question, but yeah, it is what it is.
Thanks for your opinion anyways. Yeah, we really appreciate your opinion because we want to see how what is your perspective on this question. So it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. We really want to hear your opinion from your side actually.
Yeah.
And then next is from Aina, which is how do you decide what idea or project you want to put in your life? Some people have many ideas and things they want to do it, but it will only become stressful to execute all of it.
Yeah. To me, it boils to three things: passion, purpose, and pleasure. And that goes for anything, whether you are a startup, whether you are an entrepreneur, or whether you even take a job in a corporate like I do, right? And that's what hit me in my midlife crisis. Is at the end of the day, what are you passionate about it? Why are you doing something? What is your personal, deepest, selfish reason for doing this? And that, sorry, have fun with it. But start somewhere. Like I said, when I started that I wanted to do good, I started with what everyone was doing. I even went to a tree planting event. And then I was looking around and I'm like, so, and the CEO I was volunteering helping an NGO and it was another company. And this company was bragging about, oh, we planted 1,000 trees today. And then I'm looking around and everybody was eating in a plastic plate with a plastic fork and a plastic knife, drinking a plastic cup, and then they put it all in a dustbin. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? You were better off staying home reading the newspaper that, what is the negative impact? So you will try things, they will not work. If you question yourself whether you like it or not, or whether you are really making an impact, and then you will move to the next one and keep trying another one, keep trying another one. Like I said, I started volunteering with the old folks home, and then I realized that I wasn't doing them any favor. I went to an orphanage volunteering to help children, and all I had was a kid chasing me to adopt him for 4 hours. And I felt the most miserable person in my life that day because I thought I was going to make him happy. So don't be afraid to try things. Don't be afraid to fail as long as you try small and then you fail small. And just I ask you to, that's why I said, like I said earlier, continue to dream about making an impact. Just remember, technology is not the solution, is the enabler. The solution is in our action. And all I'm saying is try something, try small, see the consequences of it. Don't get stuck analysis by paralysis. Then now you're not going to do anything because you're afraid to screw up the planet. And believe me, there is another 7 billion people doing it along with you. Just do something, do it small, see the outcome of it, and then take action again.
Okay, next one we have a question from Emily. Hi sir, what are the first thing do we need to know if you want to start a startup business of your own? Wow, this is one of the good questions. I would like to know about this as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure it relates to the hackathon, but again, you know what? I become a socialpreneur. I started doing freelance consulting by pure coincidence. I never thought that would have happened. It never came to my mind that would have happened. Everything that happened in my life happened to be by accident. I wanted to be a jeweler maker. I wanted to learn how to carve diamonds. I was afraid to ask my dad because I would have to go to a school 50 kilometers away. And those days, 50 kilometers is very, very far. So instead, I decided to go to school to become a professional waiter bartender. And little I just left home and never came back. So it got even worse. Even the job at DHL, I got it by accident. I was looking for a job in a bank, and instead I took a job at DHL, and only because they had a good dental benefits, and I needed to put braces, and I wanted to save money. Again, I had a selfish reason for doing this. Um, I wanted to become a dive instructor, but then changed my mind because I like to do underwater photography. I just became a consultant by accident because people asked me for to pay for my consultation. So follow your path, follow your dream, continue learning, never stop learning, and it may not work out the way you want it. I studied corporate finance and marketing research. I've never done either one of them for 22 years in DHL. But what I learned from there, I can use it in my day-to-day life. So there is a lot of things that I learned in my life out of context that I can benefit today. So even your degree, your piece of paper, please don't study to take a test. Study to learn, and then go out and get your hands dirty, practice. Don't be afraid to take a job at McDonald's flipping burgers. It may teach you a little bit of humility, although you have a master degree in something. Just go out and do it. If you do small, this is the age that you can screw up. I was bankrupted at 27 and I got over with it and I recovered. If I go bankrupted now at 50, I'm going to be in trouble. Just so don't be afraid to try new things. Just try small. So if you screw up, it doesn't hurt you that much. And you also don't hurt the planet and society that much.
I see. That's one of the good advice that you can.
And this is my 2 cents about this hackathon. I'm challenging you to think out of the box. It's a hackathon for a reason. It's an ideathon for a reason. Pull an idea out of the hat, make it wacky, make it crazy. You're not going to go do it now anyway. So you're not going to kill anyone. It's just a hackathon, it's just an idea, but just think in a different way. How can I use technology in a very different way that because today we're still using it in a reactive mode. Think about it, how can I use technology to change the way we behave, the way we act, the way we live together, because it's 7 billion of us and we're gonna keep growing, but the planet is not growing with us.
I see. I'm going to open the floor for another 5 minutes. If you guys have any more questions, you can start typing in the chat function. And then also for Gio, I have a question for you. All right.
Oh,
Since we are currently having a COVID-19 pandemic, does this affect your volunteering um, effort during these days?
It did. Of course, first of all, everybody goes down for a week or two because it's an adjustment in lifestyle and what you do. For me, the challenge was I'm living alone. I'm working from home alone. And while I used to like to work from home, but because it was my decision, now I have to work from home because I don't have a choice. And I needed to adjust a lot of things because when you're alone at home, then you start talking to the birds you see on a balcony, and it's a little bit dangerous. Um, it did change the way I mentor and volunteer because I like more the face-to-face interaction. But it just takes some time to adjust and try different things. I used to do a lot of trainings and coaching. And like I said, I just repurpose what I was doing and contact a few NGOs and say, hey, let's try with 4 people. Let's see if this works before we scale it down to a bigger stage. And interesting enough, even when you all came up with this virtual idea, I said, okay, this will be very interesting because my experience in the past at the NASA Space Challenge is that attendees usually don't go to mentors looking for help until we go to them and ask them what they're doing. We give them a few feedback. And then the second day, it's the opposite. I remember last year at Magic, there was 3 of us. We had to find a place to hide because people that were even chasing us to the toilet, waiting outside of the door, which was a good thing. So it'll be interesting how we do this. And for example, one thing I realized is I need to go to the various room and start challenging people, asking questions. Do you have a crazy idea? Do you need anything? Do you need help? So the platform is there. And we as a mentor, we have the responsibility to make us available and make us transparent. So we cannot just sit there at my laptop and waiting for somebody to message me. I went into a couple of rooms and I asked some crazy questions. And if somebody wants to share, then I'll have a one-on-one.
I see. Great, 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 great. Yeah. I see that there is no more questions. Joe, do you? I think we can stop the Q&A session.
Yeah, if everybody feels I answered their question, it's fine. Otherwise, you can always
Oh, oh,
message.
oh, we have one question
Okay.
from Tasha. Do you mind on proceeding on this question?
The achievement I'm most proud of, um, the 6 kids that I was mentoring in Chowkit. When I first met him, I had my own idea. I says, I'm going to teach them project management, and I'm a professional project manager. I went there with all the framework and the methodology, and I realized after 5 minutes, they all fell asleep. And these were all 13, 14 years old kids. One thing I realized with marginalized communities is they discriminate themselves before we do. And I hate to use the word marginalized community because by saying this, I just discriminated them. So what I realized, one of the biggest problem was that they didn't believe in themselves, let alone society. And for me, I just needed to let them snap out of it, right? And then it was today I still call them kids. 2 of them are married. One of them is expecting to become father. They call me grandpa. I still in touch with them. 3 of them run their own social enterprise. It's called Chowkit Youth Venture. And again, they still focus on performing arts to get the street kids engaged and stay out of trouble, but they do it in a self-sustainable way. The other satisfaction that I have on my life is that I finally handed the addiction to the plastic bags in a grocery store because I bring my own paper bags to put apples, banana, and fruits and stuff like that. And if something is wrapped in the plastic, I will not buy it. Even if I like it, I will not buy it anymore. And I'm proud that it was hard. It took me 2 years to train myself to give up on it. The other one would be probably seeing some of the social entrepreneurs that I really grilled hard um, to see achieving their social mission in a sustainable way. And to me, starting a business is just this like this hackathon, you know. Um, think of your solution. Your solution can be simple that people can understand, but think of something that can be adapted and replicated for other purposes. That's what make a great idea a great idea. But don't be afraid to think out of the box because that's the whole point of this competition anyway.
Okay. We have
Questions you
only
mentioned,
one
sustaining,
question.
protecting, and saving the environment. It was a great idea. Where environment should I know? Do DHL have any plan to work about this? The true, actually, yes. DHL was one of the very first company in the world that set the CO2 emission zero by 2050. By 2025, in 5 years time, we want to be already at 50%. And we don't say CO2 emission neutral, which means you burn fossil fuel on the left and then you offset it with, I don't know, a windmill. We really want to be zero CO2 emission. We even build a factory that builds electrical vehicle for us. Because again, when we went to the automotive industry, you know, fuel addiction and the lobbies, it's funny, you know, automobile is still do the same very basic thing that has been doing for the last 70 odd years, a combustion engine. We put all the bling bling in the cars. You know, you can play the radio. One of these days we'll even make you a cup of espresso. But nobody has an interest to really turn the fossil fuel addiction into the car because of lobbies. And by the way, the very first electric car was the Volta by General Motors. The problem is nobody wanted to use it back then. So we got fed up with this. We built our own factory that builds our own electrical vehicle, very cheap, because we strip down all of the bling bling and we only focus on what we need for the courier to go from left to right. And now we're also running a program to get rid of plastic into the wrapping using biodegradable technology. But then the other problem is we need to convince our customer to buy those products, right? And that's is also part of. So again, the solution is good on one side, but I need to stop people addiction on the other side.
All right. Jim Catucci said, thank you, sir, for your explanation.
Yes, yes. I figured out how to read the chats.
Okay. So, anyone else who have questions, please write your questions over here, and I'm going to open the floor for another 1 minute to see if there's any more questions. And if there are no more, then maybe we can end the session
Yeah.
right at 12:16.
So I will be online in the afternoon. I have another mentoring to do for an hour in Sarawak for a group of social entrepreneurs, but then I will be back online. I look forward to hearing any one of you to share with me your idea. And again, technology, I have no clue what the hell you're doing in the back end. I can only help you from the other side. What does it mean to the end user? What does it mean to society? What does it mean to environment? And I will challenge you to make it more wacky and crazy that it could be.
Okay, yes. Also for our participants, as you know that Gio, Colin Gio is one of our mentors. So if you have any questions in regards of doing your project, either hackathon or ideathon, you can reach to him as well. And yes, I didn't see any more questions coming, and everyone say thank you to you, sir. Ah, from Jim Pachin. Before end, can you share any closing word to us?
Oh, another closing word. Well, like I said earlier, three things I would like you to do. Continue dreaming about making an impact. That's a generation that wants to make an impact. We need to make an impact. But I just ask you to stop thinking as technology as the solution. They're just an enabler to the solution. The real problem is us. And that means we need to start thinking about acting in a more sustainable way. And but that means that think about it, the unintended consequences of what we do. Uh, and that means also don't stop doing anything now and get analysis by paralysis. Just learn to do things in baby steps and kiss. Keep it short and stupid that people can understand, and you can even try to do it. You don't get motivated because everything you will do in life, chances are the first step will fail. Just like kids learning to crawl and walk, right? They're going to fall, they're going to slam their face on the floor, and then they get up again, they cry for 5 minutes, and they walk. But you will never see a kid trying to jump the balcony 5 floors, right? They're just trying to walk. So do the same thing. Nobody's asking you to save the world. If all of us will do the right thing, we will be much better off later.
I like how you say nobody do not save the world. Yes. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be one of my life motto now. Because everyone been saying like we should save the world and you go opposite of not saving the world.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yes, it's very inspiring to see how you actually justify on that.
And then we talk about saving the world, and then nobody's taking action, you know. And I go to conferences and people still drink in a plastic bottle. Really? Something simple like this, we still cannot do it. And now we talk about how technology is going to save the world, right? Can you find a technology that stops people from using plastic bottles?
No, I
Because
haven't seen anything yet.
exactly.
Okay, so I think we can end the Q&A session right now. Yeah, because you already have your closing word to us and all and everything. Thank you for your session. It's very, very, very insightful and it's very, very informative, and we know a lot about you more. And uh, we wish you good luck for your whatever you're doing, and we do support your effort on being selfish to yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, you wish me good luck. The attendees to the hackathon are my luck.
Oh,
So my luck is that hopefully I get to help a few of them, and then they message me later and they got the prize. I'm still in touch with some of them 3 years later, and they move on in their life and doing business. So that means I was lucky.
that you are lucky. Okay. I'm going to end the Zoom
Yeah.
meeting right now. So everyone, thank you for your attendance, and we wish you good luck. And feel free to join for our next seminar, which is scheduled on 12:30 p.m. with Amlan Panibrahi from the center. So everyone, thanks for coming, and I will end this webinar now. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.